Hello, seventh grade science teachers. I hope I'm recording. I think I am. All right, what we'll be going over today is the actual suggested pacing guide within our curriculum map. So we've covered the scope and sequence, we've covered the curriculum landing page, and now I want to go over the suggested pacing. This is the main area where your day-to-day lesson planning really comes in, and it kind of brings all of our digital resources together. So we'll start here. I'll kind of outline it for one concept because then it just kind of repeats itself. But I think you'll find this extremely useful for planning out your lessons. Start off with, if you want to get to the Discovery Ed unit or concept planning page, you can jump right there. I've got links all throughout this, so you can always jump to corresponding areas on Discovery Ed. But one useful thing that we got right up here at the top is the student learning objectives. Not only does this tell you what students will be learning in this concept, but you can use these in your lesson planning. I know many schools want you to write it on the board. These are perfect. You might want to tweak the language a bit depending on what you're doing in that day, but these are great. They have the right verbiage. It's in the I can statements, so feel free to utilize those as you see fit. I've also numbered these, so those correspond as you come down to the Explore section. I tell you what objectives are being addressed in which section, so that's gonna help you as well during your planning. And ignore the typos that you definitely were not there. I know how to spell balloon. Okay, so super useful right there. You're also going to have a guiding phenomena suggestion. So even though you have a unit phenomena for addressing how students are going to think about this whole unit, there's also phenomena for each concept. And that could just be a question that you do at the start of class. Like for example, this one is about dry ice. So students might be somewhat familiar with that, but this might be a good question to start them off. And you could actually probably do a dry ice experiment in class once students kind of learn what it is that you're talking about, or do it to interest them, and then they can explain it later on. You also have your standards that are available just like they are on the scope and sequence, and always you can access the item specifications there. But the main planning comes when you get down to here. This is where you're really going to find all the resources. Man, so many typos. So as we look at this, you've got your Discovery Ed is over here on the right hand side. And what I've done is I've listed out the different activities, the different questions being answered from Discovery Ed. If you want to access the activities, like say 1, 2, or 3, you can actually click on this link and it'll take you right to the page that has all those activities. You don't have to worry about navigating through Discovery Ed. Same thing, once you're ready for these, you can click here and it'll take you right there. So this really cuts down on your navigationing on Discovery Ed. Once you get used to Discovery Ed, it's not that bad, but that will really help. I've also tried to pull out some other stuff from Discovery Ed, so like the vocabulary activities, this was hidden away. But if you want some vocab activities to use at some point in this concept, they give you some really good strategies for how you can engage students in interesting ways with the vocabulary. And the main idea graphic organizer, I've put these together to be a little bit more interesting than what they had on the actual Discovery Ed website. The point of these is that students will take notes throughout this concept to answer that main question they're asked at the very beginning, and all the notes will help them to answer that question in a CER style writing. So you can utilize those as like good notebook graphic organizers. So before we jump over to here, the way I like lesson planning using Discovery Ed is I'll actually go in, I'll look at like a block of activities. So I'll look at like activities 4, 5, and 6. What am I working with here? Is there any videos that I might want to use? Great questions, text, things like that. What things make sense to do in the book or online? What can I pull out and just create my own worksheet because I don't like how it's formatted? What could I throw into a PowerPoint? What could I just do as a lecture or have students do in stations? Right? So I'm going to take whatever is available and how do I want to blend that into a lesson that fits my style, fits my students. I don't have to go, okay, today is activity 4, tomorrow is activity 5, next is, you don't have to do it like that. So you can kind of explore different ways of using all the resources available to you here, and then we're going to start to blend those resources with our other stuff over here. I have a separate video that highlights how to use Nearpod. So if you're not familiar with Nearpod, go check out that video. But here are Nearpod lessons that correlate to what students would be learning here in Discovery Ed. So boom, I can grab those and make those part of my lesson. I don't always list out every single Nearpod activity that's listed. These are just suggested ones. So if you want all the available ones, you can click on this folder and it'll take you to the district folder. Go check out that video. You're also free to create your own Nearpod if you feel like it. This column has different labs and virtual activities. I've also linked to different MoLeap blocks. These are resources created by the state, very standards-based, multiple day activities. The newer ones even have some PowerPoint slides to guide you through it, so you might want to check those out as something engaging to do with the kids. But otherwise, I'm going to highlight, hey, activity 6, that's a hands-on investigation. This will take you directly to that activity so that you can see the materials needed to help you plan ahead for what you might have coming up. If there's any gizmos that are related, I've linked to those here, and you can jump in and do that. Check out my gizmo video if you have questions on gizmos. And PhET as well. PhET's a simpler online simulation, but they have some really good stuff there as well. So that gives you lots of different labs, simulations, and those sorts of things. And then in this last column, I've highlighted some really good YouTube content videos on the topics. These could be good for you to review and learn, catch up on a subject. If you want to assign these to students, you can. Some of the longer ones, you could put into a Nearpod and put questions into it if there's not already one there. So those are available to you as well. So you can kind of see as you lesson plan, you got all these resources at your disposal. Even Discovery Ed, I can do the book, I can do online, I can convert it into my own worksheet. Like, you got all these things together. How do I want to create a lesson? And you can be very creative in that process. Then as you get down to the bottom, if you want to get to the Evaluate tab on Discovery Ed, just click there. And each Evaluate tab comes with a concept assessment. This is going to be, they have multiple choice, but they also have some drag and drop, different type of questions. These you can actually edit now. So if you don't like certain questions or didn't cover everything, you can cut them out. And for a little bit simpler or practice, they have a practice test as well. I highly encourage using these every once in a while because these are actually where I pull the questions for the district tests. So if you have students taking these, they're going to start to remember these questions and perform better. And we've talked about the performance assessment in other videos, but those are also highlighted here. So this is the precious cargo, and there is your answer key for that one. If you haven't seen that video, you can go check that out for the performance assessments. It's just going to repeat itself for every other concept. Once you do the last concept, then down at the bottom you have your unit assessment, your unit performance assessment, your map test lit. I covered those in the scope and sequence video if you want to dig into those. It reminds you to go and try out the project if you're trying to close out the unit. And then if you're ready to jump over to the next unit, you can actually just click this and I'll take you to quarter 2. Or if you wanted to go back up and access something at the top, beam me up, Scotty. Boom, you're right up back at the top. So I hope that you're starting to see exactly how all of this can be put together to create really engaging lessons. I hope this video is helping you out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.